to stand up. Can I sit? Hi, good afternoon. Teach for the Philippines is absolutely delighted to be invited to come here and have a conversation with each one of you on the state of public education and the challenges it faces all over the world. So thank you, Maricar, Ramon, and Amina. Um, while we cannot claim to possess the magic bullet, I will share with you that there is a growing movement, 32 countries and counting, where they have galvanized their young leaders to take ownership of education reform, and that's the Teach For movement. In Asia, we have it in Malaysia, in Thailand, in Japan, the Philippines. Am I missing anybody else? In ASEAN. Then you have China, India, and the rest of the world. So we're in 32 countries. Um, the problem of educational inequity is not unique to one country. It is a global issue. The good news is that there is a solution that is global as well. Um, so let me start by giving you the sharing with you the state of public education in the Philippines. After almost 14 years of working with the public education system, first as a functional literacy program, and then as Teach for the Philippines since August of 2012, we see several obstacles to transformational education. There is insufficient teacher training. The average mean score on the licensure exam for teachers in our country has remained stagnant for almost a decade now at 50%. In the recent March 2013 licensure exam, our elementary school teachers passed with a mean score of 27.78%, and our high school teachers, to your point, Ramon, passed with a mean score of 39.61%. So our teachers know only 27% and 39% of what they should know when they enter our public schools. There are teacher shortages. The K+12 program has expanded the previous 10-year cycle to the universal standard of 13 years, adding a 1.45% increase in student enrollment. So the DepEd, the Department of Education, currently estimates teacher shortages to be at 70,000, while the Asian Development Bank calculates that by 2017, the country will need an additional 55,000 teachers just for the additional high school years, grade 11 and 12. So you have 50,000 now, 70,000 now, and you have 55,000 coming up, and you're trying to fill this. We have overburdened educators. To address overcrowded classrooms, the Department of Education assigns double or triple shifts to its teachers, specifically in the National Capital Region, which has the highest density. Teachers who have more than one shift are forced to decrease the hours of instruction from the normal 6 hours to 4 hours. Low functional literacy. According to reading test scores, only 16 to 33% of elementary school students can read proficiently at the target grade level. Think about that. Only 16 to 33%. Although the majority of students are attending class, they are not developing the critical and analytical thinking skills necessary to obtain a successful academic experience. We have a nation of male underachievers. In the Philippines, from grade 5 through the end of high school, boys are dropping out of school 2 to 2.5 times more than girls. And the National Statistics Office did conduct a survey, and they asked the question, why are children dropping out? because they had to understand, this is because they have to go and get out and work for the family. That's what everybody thought. A lack of achievement, notably the inability to read with comprehension, was the major cause of dropping out. So they can't read. The boys figure, why am I in this classroom? Goodbye. The highest dropout rate is happening at grade 3, never to return. They don't come back. We have insufficient investments in education. The Philippine government's investment in education decreased from 3.3% of its national GDP in 2001 to 2.17% in 2013. UNESCO recommends a minimum of 6% of GDP for education. The consequences of these disparities are devastating for the more than 20 million children in our public school system, for their families, and for our society. When we fail to ensure our children attain a quality education, we pay a massive cost in moral, civic, and economic terms. 20 years ago, the prevailing assumption in the policy circles was that socioeconomic circumstances determined educational outcomes. So where you were born would determine what your academic outcomes would be. Many assumed that fixing education would require fixing poverty. So you were always in a conundrum, especially in a developing country like the Philippines, because you would hear the government and people say, well, we have to fix poverty before we fix education. In 1990, Wendy Kopp dreamed up the idea of Teach for America. This was her thesis at Princeton University. She envisioned her generation rallying to address the unjust reality that in America, the neighborhood into which children are born still largely predicts their educational outcomes, and in turn their opportunities in life. 23 years later, we are seeing confirmation of Teach for America's initial proposition that core members' teaching experience would not only have a positive impact on the children they taught, but it would have a lasting impact on the teachers themselves. Ultimately, they have created a leadership force for long-term change. So when in the beginning they thought that, yes, we would create an impact in the classrooms and change the trajectories of these children's lives, what they didn't realize then, 23 years ago, was that it would change the trajectories of their lives. Teach for the Philippines is the 25th partner organization. Jerome, could we show? Yeah. Teach for the Philippines is the 25th partner organization of Teach for All, a global network of 32 independent social enterprises that are working to expand educational opportunities in their nations by enlisting our most promising future leaders in this effort. And that's why we're here today. We aspire to the vision that one day all children will have access to quality education. We believe that at the core of the solution to educational inequity is leadership. Wherever there is transformational change for children, whether at the classroom or the school or the system level, there is transformational leadership. Individuals who believe deeply in their students, who invest them and their families in an ambitious vision of success, and who do whatever it takes to get them there. Teach for the Philippines mission is to be one source of these transformational leaders. Our Chief Operations Officer, Clarissa, will tell you a little bit more about what we do in the program.
Hi, so I'm gonna sit down because what I have to tell you is a little bit heavy, and so I want to make this pretty casual. 8 months ago, in April, I stood before 54 adults like you to speak to them about their country, the Philippines, and the current situation in our school. Thanks to Margarita's opening, I find myself experiencing deja vu. However, instead of the team at Teach for the Philippines, I'm in front of you. I am seeing the teachers of my program this Saturday, and guess what? I want another chance to give this speech again. For the next 10 minutes, I am going to pretend that I'm in front of my team, like Angel and Jerome. And you are going to pretend that you are my 54, now 52 teacher fellows. For me to practice this, I need you to play your characters very well. So here's your role, and it's very simple. Teach for the Philippines recruits young leaders to give 2 years of their lives to teach in this nation's underserved and under-resourced public schools. Today, and for the next 10 minutes, you will be one of them. This means that tomorrow, like you did yesterday and the day before that, you put on the uniform of a Filipino public school teacher. You wake up at 4:30 in the morning to make it to flag ceremony. You say hi to your principal, and you join 600,000 brothers and sisters at arms in the classrooms around the country to be responsible for the lives of 22.5 million children. You are now living the choice you made 8 months ago, to teach. But guess what? You're not very happy with it. And that's about enough detail, so here goes. Hi, fellows. I'm excited to address you again. Though, after 2 dropouts and 6 months in the chalk-dusty classroom, I'm not certain you are as excited to see me. 8 months ago, I told you that helping make change in the public education system was just 2 months and 2 years out of your reach. A little bit more weathered and a little bit more battle-hardened, 8 months have passed by, and you struggle every day not only to seize the change, but to even just wake up at 4 a.m., put on your sticky, fraying polyester uniform, and get to school on time. You are beginning to think that this change is going to take more than 2 years. I also told you last April that if you wanted to change something, anything, you would have to be prepared to work yourself to the bone. A little bit more weathered and a little bit more battle-hardened, working yourself to the bone now has a definition. It means late nights, no weekends, and frequent trips to the hospital. No going home to your family on a Friday, no classroom of happy, well-dressed children who love you. Instead, you find yourself saddled with a stressful and often lonely job, your work seasoned with dengue, TB, chickenpox, measles. Every day, for every 5% of joy that your slightly less well-dressed but still beautiful kids give you in the classroom, they also give you 95% of heartache. To make the change that we discussed, you were prepared to struggle. And everyone said this struggle would be hard, but no one ever said it would be this hard. 8 months ago, I told you that in your 3rd grade advisory class alone, 19 of your 60 kids would not make it to grade 4. I also told you that 1/3 of your kids were struggling readers. This is the status quo, and those are the statistics. 8 months later, these are no longer just statistics. The 19 kids now have names. Like Oliver, in Carlo Fernando's class, Maricar's brother, who helps park cars on Katipunan Avenue until 3 a.m. and who doesn't see the point of school. Like Joher in Carmina's class, who gets beaten up for standing up to a bully and answering her questions correctly. Like Vincent, who one day stopped appearing in your class altogether, and though you know where he lives, you have not been able to find his family. 8 months ago, you were determined not to accept the status quo. Now the status quo has a name. You can choose one. Oliver, Vincent, Joher. Now the status quo also has one additional crushing detail: poverty. As you put on your itchy public school teacher uniform, you wonder if this is all too much. Maybe you made the wrong choice by getting involved in this wicked problem in the first place. You knew it would be hard. You didn't know it would be this hard. So here we are, you and I, glum and dispirited, a right pair, half awake like many of you in this room. Like I said, you may not be happy to see me, but like the ghost of Christmas past, I am here to remind you of something. I am here to remind you that the way out of this mess is by using our imagination. Imagination. The dream that we still dream together. See, you and I have a dream vision of this country that we want to live in, that we want our kids to live in. First, that vision does not involve us moving to another country. Second, that vision does not involve poverty, crime, corruption, or violence. What that vision does involve, however, are the kids that we see on the street today, in threadbare clothes. However, in our vision, they are not walking on the street, but instead on the sidewalk, in sensible clothes, with a college degree and a job. Our vision also involves our friends, and our friends are equally as committed as we are to helping Oliver, Vincent, and Joher learn to take life as it comes and make the best of it. I want to now share a story not from me, but from one of your peers. It's about this dream of ours. Meet Delphine Villafuerte. Delphine Villafuerte is the 2012 valedictorian of Ateneo de Manila University, one of this country's most prestigious institutions. He, like you, is a Department of Education public school teacher at General Rojas Elementary School in Quezon City. A few months ago, he did the riskiest thing that he has ever done as a teacher. He took 2 of his students to his alma mater. This is Kurt Christian on the left, Casey, and Mark Andre, spelled Andrie but pronounced Andre. Though Delphine asks me not to tell you, Casey is one of his favorite students. But Casey is a non-reader. He is 10 years old and has a difficult time reading 3-letter words. It should be no surprise then that Casey fails every subject. Casey is also a cool kid. He is not very tall, but what he lacks in height he certainly makes up for in swagger. On one Saturday, Delphine brought Casey and his best friend Andre to Ateneo. Throughout our education, here or abroad, our schools often encourage us to immerse ourselves in high-need communities. For Casey and Andre, going to Ateneo was an immersion. Delphine, Casey, and Andre were already exhausted by the time they arrived on campus. But all of that disappeared when Casey and Andre saw the new oval and the new gym. The exhaustion disappeared when Delphine had to drag them away from the swimming pool because they had never known anything so deep and so clean. Delphine found himself not tired anymore when he heard the bell ring at the end of class and saw his 2 kids open their eyes wide and run outside in surprise, trying to find out where the noise that interrupted the magical silence was coming from. They sat in Delphine's statistics class. On weekends, Delphine teaches in Ateneo's business school. And when class was over, Casey and Andre wrote all over the board, "Mag-aaral ako sa Ateneo. I will study in Ateneo." Remember, Casey is a non-reader who struggled blending each and every syllable of this phrase just to write it on the board. Before eating and going home, Delphine obviously had to process and synthesize this experience for them. He had an objective that Saturday. I can and I want. He later surmised, I may have been successful with the I want, but I had to do something about the I can. Delphine sat on a bench and called Casey over. Oh, so how was Ateneo, Casey? Big smile. It's beautiful, Chur. Do you want to study here? Yes. Wait. Let me show you something. This is your report card. Look at the back. There is only 1 grade written down. Why do you think there is only 1 grade? Because I'm naughty and I misbehave. No, guess again. Because I don't know how to read. No, guess again. No reply. It's because your other grades did not reach the passing mark, Casey. No reply. Are you smart, Casey? Casey shakes his head. Why? Who told you that? Ako, Chur. Me, teacher. Why do you say that you are not smart? Well, I guess I kind of noticed it myself, Cher. Casey, look at me. Whenever you have a doubt in yourself, remember what teacher will tell you now. Matalino kang bata, huwag mo kalimutan yun. You are a smart kid. Don't you ever forget that. At that moment, Casey's eyes started to water. He looked at the ground, covered his eyes, and started to cry. Casey, teacher has a promise for you. If you will behave properly in class and promise to learn, I promise to help you get here to Ateneo. But you have to promise me that you will work hard. Casey, what will next quarter's report card look like? 90. For Ateneo, we have to aim higher. 100. Imagination. In Delphine's Master for Words, sometimes we need to believe in the potential of those who no longer believe in it themselves. No matter how many Saturdays it takes to get that point across. Because with that simple act of believing, malayo ang kanilang mararating habang buhay. They will go that much farther in life. Marie Carr and the organizers of this summit, like Mr. Miranda, have asked us to come and share our work with you. Well, Delphine and the 51 faces you see behind him, Margarita, Jerome, Angel, the staff at Teach for the Philippines here with me today, this is our work. We are Teach for the Philippines. What we do is not easy, and the struggles are very real. But we have an imagination, we have a vision. This, in 15 minutes, is who we are. Angelina Jolie recently received the Hirschholt Humanitarian Award. I don't know if you've had the chance to watch her speech, but if you have 4 minutes and 30 seconds to spare, I suggest you do. In a tribute to her mother, Jolie said, "Above all, my mom was very clear that nothing would mean anything if I didn't live a life of use to others. And I didn't know what that meant for a very long time. I came into this business young, worried about my own experiences, my own pain. It was only when I began to travel and look and live beyond my home that I understood my responsibility to others. I learned what life was like for most people in this world, and I learned how fortunate I was. We are all, in this room, fortunate and privileged in experiences, talent, education, or all three. As young adults involved in this summit, each of you have already begun living a personal leadership journey. Like the Coast of Christmas Future, I am here to tell you, own it. Leaders are not born from lives of leisure. Someone who has never looked or lived beyond her comfort zone will not understand her responsibility to others. She will not wield leadership successfully. Leadership is not for everyone. It is a choice. Leaders, by definition, are set apart because they choose adversity. They choose to survive in the face of adversity, and even while surviving, choose to make a difference in the lives of others. There are no shortcuts. The journey is as long as it is difficult. Struggles mount even when you are begging them to stop. Delphine, the other fellows, and the Teach for the Philippines staff make one choice every day. They make the choice to step from life's sidelines, to enter an unforgiving playing field, move from being a spectator to a participant. Their choice is to believe in kids like Casey, even when Casey and the rest of the world don't believe in themselves. Everything worth having in this life is hard work. And though we started this young, worried about our own experiences and our own pain, through Teach for the Philippines, we hope to live life understanding better our responsibility to others. This, in 20 minutes, is what Teach for the Philippines does. Thank you, and thank you for having us with you today.
Good afternoon. Since I'm the last speaker for this session, I think you're probably dozing off. So, Assalamualaikum. Let me see if I remember this. Apa kabar? Sawadee ka. What was the other one? Salamat datang to all and hi. No, I only remember the five original members of ASEAN. The other smaller countries, next year when you come back, I'll remember. Anyway, I'm Amina. I'm now working with the Magbasa Kita Foundation, and we work on adult literacy. Now, I may be literate when it comes to reading and writing, but when it comes to computer technology, I am a bit illiterate, so bear with me. Literacy for Peace and Development, this is our project. The acronym is LIPAD. In Filipino, LIPAD means to fly. And that captures our vision, that literacy makes your wings strong so that you could soar to greater heights. I come from the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao. It's the most conflict-affected region, as you very well know. We have the MNLF, we have the MILF, we have the Abu Sayyaf. In common with Brunei, Indonesia, and Malaysia, we have the Jamaah Islamiyah, Al-Qaeda, and so on and so forth. Most conflict-affected region. We also are the poorest region. If you take a look at the incidence of poverty in ARM, in 2009 it's 45.9%, and the national rate is only 26.5%. We have the lowest human development index. Take a look at ARM. Our index is at 0.56. The national is 0.7. And if you look at all of our provinces, every single province, Basilan, Lanao, Maguindanao, Sulu, Tawi-Tawi, lower than national. So, what to do with the most conflict-affected, poorest region? See, this is the problem with illiterate mothers. You have a feeling of alienation, especially among the young who cannot avail of opportunities or who don't have opportunities. You know that slogan, Moro, not Filipino? That's how alienated many of our people were. Where they say, we are Muslim, we are Bangsa Moro, Moro Nation, we are not Filipinos. We have more and more young people involved in, oh my God, armed conflict and criminality. What kind of criminality? You've got 14, 15-year-olds who are into kidnapping because they are drug users. So we have this phenomenon growing in Muslim Mindanao. Because we are a conflict-affected area, we've had negotiations with the Islamic Liberation Fronts. Our government is focusing on making sure that peace is going to succeed. The latest, in October 15, 2012, our government signed a peace agreement, a framework agreement for the Bangsamoro, which will strengthen autonomy. And we thank our Malaysian brothers and sister, Farisa, for helping us craft this agreement. So now we have this framework. There are 4 annexes they have to work on to make sure that autonomy really works. And we are hopeful for the future that perhaps we can address alienation, poverty, conflict. Our president says inclusive growth is very important for all Filipinos to prosper. And he also believes that inclusive growth is a key to peace. You see all those red dots? Those are the conflict areas of the Philippines. Where are they most marked? Mindanao. And that's the autonomous region, where you have most of the red dots, measles. However, if you ask our young, there was a rally, and we took this picture. It says, pagkain, hindi bala. Food, not bullets. Trabaho, hindi gera. Jobs, not war. This is what our people want, especially our young. But how do you get jobs to our young and to our people? How can we participate in inclusive growth if, take a look at the classification of workers, of the workforce in ARMM. For the Philippines, wage and salary workers are 54.5%. In ARM, it's only 15%. Where are most of our workers? They are 57.4% self-employed because no one can employ them. They are without pay in own family-operated firms or business. These are mostly farmers and fishermen, and that's 27%. So you've got more than 80%, you've got 85% of our people in the workforce unpaid or low paid. So how can you be inclusive, right? What explains this? We believe that a major reason for this is illiteracy. We have done the estimates, and our estimate is that there are more than 500,000 functionally illiterate people aged 15 years and above in ARMM, and we have a total population of 1.9 million. So that means less than a quarter, well, more than a quarter of our population aged 15 and above are illiterate. If you take away the 15 to 17 years old and just look at 18 and up, it's even worse. More than a third of that particular population illiterate. So what kind of inclusive growth strategy can you have if you have this sizable number of illiterates? Worse, young ladies. You remember the talk earlier that women perform better in school? In the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao, it's reverse. You have more women illiterates than men. So we ask, if you want inclusive growth, what about the 500,000 illiterates? Isn't that the missing link? Without an empowered citizenry, they cannot avail of peaceful political transitions, avail of the peace agreement. They cannot avail of social interventions, and no way can they help improve the economic condition and avail of investment opportunities in ARM. So we kept asking, who will benefit from business and investment when peace comes? You think it's the 1/3 population of illiterates? No. Because business and investment need skilled people. Where will they get them? From the neighboring regions. Education higher, skills higher, they will bring those workers into Muslim Mindanao. You think that's going to help the peace situation or create more conflict? More conflict, right? So again, if you want to break that cycle, poverty, marginalization, and conflict, what do you need to do? Take care of the adult illiterates. It's not rocket science. This is a picture I particularly love from our classes. You see that little boy? He was barred from joining his mother in our adult literacy class. But he kept sneaking in, so we took a photo. Because he wants to learn. And you know why he's there? Because his public school is really horrid. He's learning more about reading and writing from us than from his own public school. And we at Magbasa Kita Foundation believe what the UN has said. Adult literacy is the fertilizer needed for development and democracy to take root and grow. It is the invisible ingredient in any successful strategy of eradicating poverty and achieving gender equality. Now, last week, my group had organized a big conference in a big city in Mindanao to talk about business and investment climate when the peace agreement is signed. And joining us were 120 of top business leaders, representatives of international organizations, the Bangsamoro, the MILF negotiating panel. So there was a big group talking about how do we improve business and investment when peace comes so that we will truly be autonomous. Guess what? The very first presentation, when we were talking about what kind of infrastructure we need, what foundation do we need for business and investment to grow, tada, adult illiteracy. I lifted this slide from that conference. They zeroed in on adult illiteracy, again because if you have peace and you have businessmen and investors coming in, they need to hire people who can, at the very least, read a manual. How can you hire anybody to work in your factory if they cannot even read the sign that says, danger, electricity, don't touch? Right? So I was really encouraged when I saw the businessmen themselves put that as a major precondition for business and investment to succeed. And basically, this is what they said. There can be no inclusive growth, no development, and therefore no permanent peace if 500,000 citizens aged 15 and above are illiterate. With regards to education of our young, why do they not do so well in school? Well, how can children do well in school if their mothers are illiterate? Who's going to teach them to read? So adult illiteracy has to be addressed now, and we have to reduce it before an agreement is signed and before the transition takes place. This is something that the Magbasa Kita Foundation has been doing. Since 1966, we have been working on adult literacy. And this is not a unique activity. Again, thanks to our Malaysian friends, we borrowed the technique from a Malaysian educator, Nuraihan Ali. She's passed away, but her daughter is still in KL teaching. So please say hello if you do see her. We use mother tongue. That's the easiest way to teach literacy. So I was just thinking when you were making your presentation, perhaps you and I, we can get together and we can teach your methodology so that your teachers can use mother tongue phonosyllabic method for teaching reading. These are some of our materials in the major languages of the Bangsamoro. The first one was in Tausug, then there's Sama, Maguindanao, Maranao, Yakan. We have also developed a primer in Filipino because the illiterates are all over the country, from north to south. For post-literacy material, we decided to capture stories of the different tribes. So we have folklore, lifestyle, and cuisine of 8 ethno-linguistic tribes, including tribes from the north, not just the south. And since 1996, our project, which started in southern Philippines, grew. And from 1966 to 1996, we were teaching adult literacy from north to south, from the Cordilleras at the top to the last island province in the south, which is Tawi-Tawi. In 1991, we decided to establish a foundation because we realized that we couldn't do it. Every time somebody asks for help, we respond. So a foundation was established in 1991, and this foundation in 1995 was actually recognized by former President Ramos for the work it was doing on adult literacy. I love this photo because at the extreme left, that's former Congressman Benigno Simeon Aquino, who's now our president. You might not recognize him. Don't tell him. He had a lot more hair then. He didn't have too many problems at the time. So, where are we going with Lipad? We have a partnership with USAID, which ends this month. For 3 years, they gave us funding so that we can do aggressively our literacy program, our Lipad program in ARM. And this is what we have been doing apart from teaching adult literacy. We're trying to integrate concepts of peace, citizenship into our modules. Our target is to train 250 facilitators. These are our teachers all over ARMM, and to graduate 62,500 illiterates age 15 and up. To do this, we entered into partnerships with local government units, with mayors, village captains. These are 2 of our exemplary local government executives who have actually been very, very supportive of literacy. We even signed a memorandum of agreement with the regional governor of ARM, who also wants to reduce adult illiteracy in his region. We even have a unique partnership with the Marines. Now, the natives, because of the conflict with the government, are a little bit standoffish. They don't like military people very much. The Marines asked us to train them so that they could now teach the adults near their camps. And the relationship has become excellent with these trained Marines. And we hope to do more of this. with one of the telephone companies, telecommunication companies in the country, PLDT Smart, we now have a partnership with them where they want to help us digitize our method and train trainers, so that we now have a group of 50 who can be tapped to do any kind of training of teachers anywhere in Mindanao. And this has been really funded by USAID. What are our achievements? We exceeded our target. Instead of 62,500, we hit 63,714 graduates out of 67,000 enrollees. Why was there a dropout? Conflict, death, poverty. People have to find jobs. Sometimes they become migrant workers in Lahad Datu before the conflict. Let's not talk about that. But 81% of our graduates are women. Women who want to teach their children how to read, help them in school, and who want to do a little bit more work. We are in 619 villages, we call them barangays, in 42 municipalities and 2 cities of ARMM. And we have trained more than 800, not just 250, more than 800 teachers, most of them your age, most of them unemployed. They're college graduates, unemployed because there are no businesses and investments who are coming to ARMM. Why? Conflict and workforce that cannot be employed. So even the young college graduates are suffering. With our work, the transformation in the community has been really marked. It's not just that they can read, but now they have a sense of empowerment. The words of one of our students, who is a commander of the Moro Islamic Liberation Front, in the local language, what he said basically is this: before, when an agency of government or NGO comes in, they don't pay attention to these groups because they're so scared that these people will try to fool them or try to get them to do something they don't want. But because he's now literate, he has extreme confidence that he can engage them and not be duped. So these are the words of MILF Field Commander Asli. Another commander, this time Moro National Liberation Front. He actually applied to become one of our teachers. And he's been doing very well. He now wants to train more MNLF commanders to teach so that they can now have a real weapon to improve their lives. No longer arms, but the ball pen or the pencil. This is what we want to do apart from literacy. We want to now introduce issues like health, human rights, civic education, gender into our literacy work. Because at the end of the day, if you're looking at empowering a community, if you really want to have the region become fully autonomous, you need to make sure that your citizens can actually avail of the livelihood interventions that will be offered to them, can become part of political transition, can be able to engage their political leaders, and be able to participate actively in programs that our social welfare institutions are providing. That you need the ability to read, write, compute, arithmetic, 1 plus 1 equals 2, and comprehend that 1 plus 1 is 2, not 3. These are some of the activities that we are now working on as matter of post-literacy work. Engaging the government agencies, NGOs, and business sectors so that we could also do skills training for young people, increase agricultural productivity by having workshops with them, because now they can read manual, right? They know that what they're buying is fertilizer, not pesticide. That used to happen a lot. Some of our farmers, before they go to buy their fertilizer or pesticide in town, they need to bring somebody else with them because they cannot read what they're buying. Now our farmers and our farmers who are graduates of our program, they said we no longer have to bring anybody with us because now we know it's fertilizer and it's not pesticide. So our women need to learn more for the mass base, a third of whom are illiterate. They can now avail of employment opportunities. They will have improved knowledge in agriculture and fisheries, and you help improve the investment climate. You will have an empowered and responsible citizenry because now they can read documents. They know if their local governments are fooling them when they say, well, this is our budget and we use our budget to pay for the road. And then you find out that the budget was used to pay for a car. Two very different things. Now they're literate and they can demand from their leaders accountability. They now can read about what are their rights under the law and therefore be able to access justice. They can join political parties. They can campaign because now they know who's doing what based on the documents that they have in the community. This is what we want. That's why we are working aggressively so that you have a base in the autonomous region of Muslim Mindanao that's functionally literate. At the end of the day, because we have a partiality for women, this is a peace dividend that we want. An empowered Bangsamoro, particularly the women. So my dear young leaders, with your help, with your prayers and support, we really do believe that we can reduce drastically the numbers of adult illiteracy, not just here in Muslim Mindanao, but Myanmar. Because I understand in the Rakhine State, where you have the Rohingya, illiteracy extremely high. In parts of Indonesia, where you have conflict, also very high levels. Southern Thailand, Patani, again, very high levels of adult illiteracy. So perhaps we can help each other here, work together, and take a bite out of adult illiteracy. At the end of the day, we can all lipad, fly together, and soar to greater heights. Thank you. These are some of our books. You might want to take a look at what we're using. Just pass it around.